Presidential assassination attempts have been around for a very long time. The first presidential assassination attempt in the United States dates back to 1835, when Richard Lawrence, a house painter, tried to shoot President Andrew Jackson. In the House chamber of the Capitol building, Lawrence approached Jackson and fired, but the gun misfired. Jackson, undeterred, attacked Lawrence with his walking cane. Lawrence pulled out a second pistol, but again misfired. Jackson's aides took Lawrence away, and the president was left angry but unharmed. These attempts are often fueled by a mix of personal or ideological anger, sometimes exacerbated by mental illness. In some cases, political extremism plays a role, where the attacker believes that killing the president will somehow end a political cause. However, this rarely works, as the vice president, who typically shares similar views, is next in line. For example, John Wilkes Booth assassinated Abraham Lincoln because of his views on slavery and equality, but Lincoln's vice president, Andrew Johnson, took over, continuing the administration. Some attackers may be driven by desire for fame or historical recognition. Lee Harvey Oswald's motives for assassinating President Kennedy remain unclear, but it's known he had a strong desire for fame. For many of these would-be assassins, they believe their act will change history, but in reality, it really won't. The important question is not always why someone attempts an assassination, but rather how it could have been stopped. Security measures and vigilance have improved over time, but the threats haven't slowed down, especially in the 21st century. From Bush to Obama, Trump, and Biden, these 21st century U.S. presidents have consistently faced threats, and while many have been stopped, there are always more to prevent. The first presidential assassination attempt to happen in the 21st century happened May 10, 2005. President George Bush was giving a speech in Tbilisi, Georgia. In the crowd, a man hurled a grenade toward the president and First Lady. The grenade landed 61 feet away, but fortunately didn't detonate. Security quickly took the grenade and found DNA on a red handkerchief it was wrapped in. This led to the identification of the attacker, Vladimir, a Routinian, who was later sentenced to life in prison for the attack and for killing a Georgian police officer during his arrest. Moving forward a few years into the year 2008, when Obama took hold in the office, he experienced his first assassination attempt in December. Cody Ray Brittingham was sentenced to 100 months in prison for threatening to take President Obama's life. He pleaded guilty to aiding and abetting the theft of a dangerous weapon and planning a violent crime, securing his conviction in 2009. Not even 1 year later, in April of 2009, President Obama experienced his second presidential assassination attempt. Turkish security officers arrested a Syrian man planning to assassinate Obama during his visit to Turkey. The man confessed to having 3 accomplices, planning to stab the president during the Alliance of Civilizations summit in Istanbul. 2 years later, that break was put on hold in November of 2011, as Obama experienced his third assassination attempt. Gunfire struck the White House multiple times. The shooter, Oscar Ortega Hernandez, fired 7 bullets, hitting windows, frames, and the roof. The president was not home at the time, but one daughter and his mother-in-law were. Hernandez was arrested and later sentenced to 25 years in prison. Without another year to breathe, that same year in 2011 to 2012, a far-right terrorist group, FEAR, plotted to assassinate Obama. FEAR members were arrested, with one working with the police for a lighter sentence. In October of 2012, 20-year-old Mitchell Cusick was arrested for threatening to kill Obama during a campaign event. He even considered shooting children at the event. Cusick's therapist reported his plans to authorities, leading to his arrest. After serving 9 months in federal prison, he was released under supervision with mandated mental health treatment. The year 2013 saw many horrors for the Obama family, as in April of 2013, a letter laced with deadly ricin was sent to Obama and a U.S. senator. A man named Kevin Curtis was charged with the crime, but the charges were eventually dropped. 1 month later, in May of 2013, Shannon Richardson, an actress with minor roles in The Walking Dead and The Blind Side, sent ricin-laced letters to Obama and Michael Bloomberg. She was upset over Obama's gun control stance and even tried to frame her husband. She was sentenced to 18 years in prison. Another month later, in June of 2013, a white supremacist was convicted of plotting to use a death ray to kill Muslims and Obama. A member of the Ku Klux Klan, he was sentenced to 30 years in prison and will be under supervision for life after his release. The year 2014 saw no assassination attempts. Quietly leading into the year 2015 in February, which saw the arrests of 3 extremists who planned to join ISIS and kill President Obama. They even talked about hijacking a plane and bombing Coney Island. The FBI arrested them after an informant gathered information at a mosque. During Obama's break on attempted assassinations, President Trump experienced his first assassination attempt on September 6 of 2017. A man named Gregory Lee Liangang attempted to assassinate Trump by using a forklift to flip his limousine. Liangang had planned the attack while Trump was scheduled to give a speech. However, the forklift got stuck and Liangang fled the scene only to be caught by police. His attorney claimed he was suffering from mental illness, and he was also diagnosed with bipolar disorder and ADHD. Liangang was sentenced to 20 years in prison, but 2 months later in November, Trump witnessed another assassination attempt. ISIS operatives plotted to assassinate Trump while he was visiting the Philippines for the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Threats were made online before Trump's arrival in Manila. A jihadi operative was found 1 mile from Trump's hotel, but the attempt was thwarted by Secret Service agents. Fast-forwarding 4 years later for Obama in the year 2018 of October, suspicious packages were sent to several Democratic figures. The contents of the packages were believed to be destructive and triggered a mass investigation. The packages contained pipe bombs or live explosive devices with envelopes and bubble wrap. 1 year later, in April of 2019, a militia leader named Larry Hopkins was arrested for plotting to assassinate Obama and Hillary Clinton. Hopkins, who led the United Constitutional Patriots, faced firearm charges. A few years later, in September of 2020, a Canadian-French woman, Pascale Cécile Veronique Ferrier, sent homemade ricin letters to Trump. She was arrested and sentenced to 21 years in prison, followed by a lifetime of supervised release, and will be deported after completing her sentence. Ferrier claimed she was an activist, not a terrorist, but expressed no regret for her actions, except for failing to stop Trump. Obama's last assassination attempt happened in January of 2021, involving a man named Taylor Taranto, who was taking part in the Capitol riot. The 37-year-old was live-streaming the event when he drove to Obama's neighborhood, talking to Secret Service, and at one point claiming he was outside of Obama's house. He was arrested, and police found weapons, ammunition, and materials to make explosives inside of his van. The charges were not known at the time, aside from being a concern for the public safety and potential violence against members of Congress. Later, he was charged with illegally carrying a firearm without a license and an unlawful possession of a large quantity of ammunition. President Biden's only known assassination attempt to date happened in May of 2023. An alarming incident took place when a 19-year-old man named Cy Kandula attempted to drive a rented box truck into a White House barrier. Authorities later reported Kandula expressed admiration for Nazis and had a delusional plan to seize power by killing the president. He was arrested and charged with depredation of U.S. property and damages totaling $1,000. George W. Bush would see his second assassination attempt in May of 2022, this time by a member of the Islamic State. Shihab Ahmed, a 52-year-old, was arrested in Columbus, Ohio. His plan was to assassinate Bush, even going as far as to conspire illegal immigrants into the U.S. to help. The FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force arrested him in May of 2022, where in March of 2023, he pled guilty, facing more than 14 years in prison. The current year, 2024, would see no breaks for Trump, as in July, an assassination attempt would take place at a Trump rally. A 20-year-old man, Thomas Matthew Crooks, fired multiple shots, killing one attendee and seriously injuring 2 others. Crooks was killed by Secret Service agents. Despite having no criminal record, Crooks had made small donations to progressive causes, despite being registered as a Republican. More recently, in September of this year, another attempt was made at Trump's golf course in Florida. Shots were heard in the distance, and Secret Service identified a suspect, Ryan Wesley Routh, holding a rifle in a tree about 400 feet away. Routh, a former Trump supporter, obviously no longer, fled, but was later arrested. He remains in custody on weapons charges. Presidential assassination attempts have been a persistent threat throughout the 21st century in the United States, from Bush to Obama, Trump, and Biden. While these acts aim to disrupt political systems, they rarely succeed. But despite ongoing threats, security measures continue to evolve or devolve, depending on who you ask, and strive to prevent future incidents.